Alright, well, I think it's time for us to get our flywheel on there. It was in pretty good shape when we got it. There's a little bit of light surface rest on it, but not actually where the friction material actually contacts it. So we just took a little bit of light sandpaper on it just to clean those spots off. We'll just get a couple bolts in here to hold it. We'll have to go get, actually I do have the torque wrench down here to tighten it, but there's a couple of them that they honestly don't look super great. So I'm probably going to mix it up and use some of the ones from the auto flywheel, just because we don't want one of these triple square heads giving us trouble. Anyway, so I guess now would be a good time to put the pilot bearing in, which it's been in the freezer, so I guess go fetch it and get it in there. Went and got the pilot bearing out of the freezer. Yes, it says fag on it, and yes, it's funny. Alright, so I think part of our problem is that the pins that locate the pressure plate on the flywheel are sticking out enough that it's making the starter ring hit the top edge of the bell housing there and keeping it from being able to get up high enough. So I guess the options are either drive the pins in some, or what I'm going to try first is loosen the top of the bell housing so it can slide back about 1/4 of an inch. I think that might get us enough clearance. So we'll give this a try for, honestly, I lost track of which time. I think we're actually pretty close now. I could get bottom locating pin sort of on. Actually, we might be sort of on. I'll get a bolt and Alright, well, we have arrived at the time to put the drive shaft in the torque tube. So we're going to push it in from the transmission end, because that's the one we got the sleeves in there that you probably can't see oriented. So this is the transmission end, so we will push in the flywheel, our engine end first. So it's up here. So I think the splines are just a hair smaller. So anyway, we will not put any lubrication on them. We will put lubrication here instead. Anyway, so we got the first little bit lubricated some. We'll see if we can get it in there. Oh yes. I believe we've hit the second bearing. Third bearing. Need our knee pad. I want to get the knees of a hooker. Here's something else that we've been putting off but need to get to now before we can get the torque tube in place. And that is modifying the transmission tunnel. Which all we need to do is cut out this plate that I think is sort of welded in a couple places so that we can get the manual shifter through. Well, the whole spot weld thing didn't work out because there was also some seam welds too, so we sort of cut around it. I think we have plenty of room for the shifter to stick up Alright, well, got the gear oil changed in the transmission, got the bushings and the shifter greased up here, so it moves a lot nicer now. It's not nearly as stiff as it was. And got the foam seal, whatever the heck it is, thing taped on. So anyway, now that that's done, I think we're ready to get the transmission under the car. Alright, so the transmission's more or less in place. It's not attached to anything, and front end's pretty close to the bell housing. I'm going to slide it forward. Maybe now I can get a couple bolts in there to help put it together. So I couldn't help myself, so I went ahead and put the little rubber sealing boot in, and I put the shift knob I 3D printed for now on there. The donor car didn't have the shift knob or boot or anything, so I'll have to get something eventually. But for now this works. But anyway, that fooling around aside, guess it's time to start getting the rear suspension under there. So again, I got overzealous with the impact before and took apart the struts on accident when I shouldn't have, because I wasn't paying attention, and undid the middle nut in there. So yeah, that was dumb. But now I should be able to, I think, set this stuff back on, hopefully all in the right order, and maybe if I'm lucky I can, you know, put it up there and get it lined up so that it goes in on the jack and not, so that I don't have to compress the springs, basically, with a spring compressor. Hopefully I can get it lined up and then, you know, lift it up into the car and that'll do it. But camera died there, so I had to recharge it, but the cross member is now bolted in, and the car is holding up its own transmission. Well, it's able to. So now, if I release the transmission jack, there we go. Alright, we're ready to put our lower bell housing on. I did cut a hole in it to be able to look through and see what the intermediate plate adjusters are looking like with the clutch disengaged, being able to use the pedal instead of having to haphazardly try to rig something up to hold the clutch disengaged. Alright, well, the bell housing's bolted on for now. Later, but I guess now we need to go up top and make the connection to the brake reservoir so that we can bleed the clutch. I was hoping maybe we could take the cap off the master and, you know, somehow get something down there to block off that part of the cylinder, but I don't think so. So, our best option is to get a razor blade, try to hurry up and make the cut. Try and be ready with this. because I think we caught most of the fluid there. So I've reconnected the parking brake and the sway bars. The control arms are all connected. I'll have to tighten that bolt up back once there's weight on the car, and I'll have to loosen the upper control arm bolt so that the bushing can settle, and got to get the axles back on and the calipers reattached. Then the back should be all together. Alright, so the last thing we got to do on the back suspension is adjust or tighten all the bushings with them in the normal ride height location. So ideally, I guess you do this with 4-post lift, because I don't think there's any way with how low this car is to get it under it with that sitting on the wheels or on the tires. But so I jacked up under the control arm until it just barely picked up the body off the jack stands, and now I can just snug up all these bushings, which I had already loosened. It's about the same as they were before. I didn't do the fronts because I didn't mess with those. I just unbolted the bracket they bolt to from the body. Yep, so the back end of the car is all back together, minus the exhaust. Really, the exhaust's the only thing not on the car right now. I'm still going to have to do a little bit of modification to the wiring in the trunk for the transmission, most likely, so that it'll start, because I think the neutral safety switch wiring is probably not dumb enough that it just lets you start if it's disconnected. It might be, I don't know. But I'll have to figure out the wiring back there. The clutch is all good, and actually I can put the airbox and everything back on. I'm done up here, can take that out. I watched it while I had someone push it for me, and it disengages like it should. Alright, push the pedal. Alright, release it. Push it. Alright, release it. Push it. Release it. Got a clutch pedal. Our 3D printed shifter's still there. Yeah, wiring and exhaust now. Theoretically is it.